Welcome to APM Communities webinar. Today's webinar is about assistive technology, and my name is Bronya, and I will be taking you through today's information session. Before we start today, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country upon which we live, learn and work. I am located in Albany in the great southern part of WA, which is home of the Menang people. They called this area Kinjarling, which means the place of rain. I honour and respect their continued cultural and spiritual relationship to their traditional lands, seas and waters, and recognise their unique and valuable contribution to society. I honour their ancestors and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and I would like to extend this to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining here today. So the topics we will be covering in today's session are what is assistive technology, how does the product risk look in regards to that. Let's looking at the cost levels, evidence that is required, and what will the NDIS cover, and then looking at maybe some rental repairs and maintenance and how that all works, as well as vehicle modifications. So the World Health Organization describes assistive technology as an umbrella term, which is related to the delivery of assistive products and services. So assistive products are designed to maintain or improve an individual's functioning and independence, thereby promoting their well-being. For the purposes of NDIS funding, assistive technology is equipment or devices that help you to do things you can't do due to your disability. Assistive technology may also help you to do something more easily, like transfer into a bed. And assistive technology will reduce your need for other supports over time. This could be small things like non-slip mats or handrails, or it could be big things like wheelchairs and powered adjustable beds. It also could be technology like an app to help you speak to another person if you have a speech impairment. But remember, not all equipment or technology you use is considered to be assistive technology. Many people use some equipment as part of their everyday lives. So, for example, we may listen to a radio to hear some music, or use a microwave oven to cook food. So NDIS funding for assistive technology will include items that mean you need less help from others, help you do things more safely or easily, help you to keep doing the things you need to do, allow you to do tasks independently, and are personalised just for you. NDIS does not fund home equipment that everyone uses that isn't relatable to your disability, like a standardised kettle. Items for treatment or rehabilitation, this is covered by the health system. Things like changes to public spaces like a footpath, also not something that will be funded, and changes to public vehicles such as buses or taxis, as this will be the responsibility of other service systems. And also assessment or therapy tools used by therapists. So the NDIS was set up as a world-first approach to disability support. It puts people with disability at the centre of decision-making through the principles of reasonable and necessary supports and individual choice and control. As an insurance-based scheme, we take a lifetime approach to a participant's support needs. We provide assurance to people with permanent and significant disability, and to people who might acquire disability or developmental delay, that they will get the support that they need. So individual funding means we help participants to purchase services and supports from a competitive and consumer-driven marketplace. The NDIS funds a range of supports and services, including assistive technology. And once we've considered your circumstances, we need to follow the rules determined under the law for the NDIS in our planning decisions, and we fund supports that are reasonable and necessary. So this means we will only fund a support if it meets all of the following criteria. So does the assistive technology relate to your disability? So your assistive technology must relate to your disability. It should help you with different activities or something you can't do right now. Or assistive technology may make it less tiring for you to do some things, or mean you need less help from someone else. We won't fund a support if it's not related to your disability, and the NDIS don't fund general items that everyone needs, like everyday household furniture, for example. But we might fund the extra cost of adapting general items for your disability. So is this assistive technology right for you? So assistive technology needs to help you pursue your goals when you're making decisions about funding assistive technology. And we'll look at how your disability stops you from pursuing your goals. We'll also look at how the assistive technology will help with your disability support needs. So, for example, you might have a goal to move around your house more independently. So we'll look at all the ways you might be able to pursue that goal. Funding a wheelchair could be one way, and we need to know that the assistive technology is the right item for your needs, that it's safe for you to use and meets Australian safety standards where possible, and will help you to do all the things you need it to do, and also that it will work in all the places that you need to use it. And also, we're going to be considering, is the assistive technology you need going to be value for money? So the assistive technology we fund for you must be value for money compared to other assistive technology or supports that would achieve the same outcome. So we consider the benefits of the assistive technology. We also think about what it will help you do in the long term, and we also look at less expensive options, how long the assistive technology will last, how often the assistive technology will need maintenance or repairs, and whether the assistive technology may be cheaper to rent for the time you need it. So we check the price of assistive technologies in the market to compare the cost of the item you want to an expected price range for a similar item. And we use this expected price range to help us decide how much funding to include in your plan. We also look at how easy a device or service is to get, and this helps us give enough funding for the assistive technology you need to pursue your goals. This may be above the expected price range for some needs, and will generally fund the standard level of assistive technology you need based on your goals. So, for example, a wheelchair with standard specifications and features. We won't fund extra items that don't relate to your disability or don't help you pursue your goals. But you can also pay extra from your own money if you want to. You might be wanting a particular brand or model of an item. There might be some special features not related to your disability needs. So it might be a particular paint type or a particular design. So this is fine. And the next one is your assistive technology funded or provided by somebody else? So we can't fund assistive technology if it's another organisation's job to fund or provide it. So we can help work out whose job it is to fund or provide what you need. So, for example, the health departments will provide equipment you need in hospital. You might get to keep this for a week or two after you come home if you've had surgery. And then there's other state and federal government agencies that will also fund equipment sometimes as well. For example, it might be to help you in your workplace, school, or university. So now that we know what assistive technology is, I'm just going to cover the assistive technology product risk factors that we consider before including these items in participants' plans. So we use 2 product risk categories, low risk and high risk. So it makes sense. So to assess the complexity of individual assistive technology needs, the first one we're going to focus on is low risk. So when we talk about low risk, we mean assistive technology that is unlikely to cause harm in your day-to-day life, is available in stores so you can see or try it before you buy. It doesn't need professional advice, setup or training for you to use in regards to its safety. So many assistive technology products are low risk, both to you and others, and this includes things like non-slip mats, handrails, modified cutlery, walking sticks or handheld magnifiers. And these are products you or your family can choose that need very little advice or setup support from assistive technology advisors to use them safely. There's a low risk of cause of harm as well when using in your daily living environment. The next one we're going to look at is high risk. So higher cost assistive technology, such as ceiling mounted hoists, are likely to be higher risk. However, we might consider that some assistive technology that is higher risk, even if it doesn't cost very much. So if you think of things like bed poles and weighted blankets, they are actually considered a higher risk. So we rely on information from the Therapeutic Goods Administration, who regulate the use of therapeutic goods in Australia. So you will need professional or skilled advice to pick the right model or size for higher risk assistive technology. You also need to make sure it's set up properly and you understand how to use it. So this way you'll get the best outcomes and avoid getting hurt. So some examples of higher risk items are things like powered wheelchairs, or items that potentially restrict voluntary movement. So this can include things like bed rails, bed covers, and weighted blankets, maybe powered devices for magnification and hearing, and things like mobility and postural support or correction devices. And also motor vehicle adaptations, prosthetics and devices to support breathing. So if you need higher risk assistive technology, we'll include funding in your plan so you can get written advice about any higher risk assistive technology that you need before you buy the item. So they may also offer to trial the equipment to ensure it's also fit for purpose. And once approved, we'll also include funding for someone to help you to set it up and to learn how to use it. So assistive technology ranges from the simple to the complex, and you may need the help of an assistive technology assessor to determine the right assistive technology solution for your needs. So we have just discussed the 2 levels of product risks associated with assistive technology, and now we'll be discussing the 3 different cost levels associated with assistive technology. And these are low cost, mid cost and high cost. So let's break these down one by one. So we'll start with low cost assistive technology. So these are items that are under $1,500 per item, and they're low cost items that are easy to set up and use. They're available from local suppliers or general non-disability specific retailers. So examples may include things like continence products, non-slip bath mats, large print labels, walking sticks and basic shower chairs. The core consumables section of your NDIA budget shows your low cost assistive technology funding. So if you need low cost assistive technology, you can tell us what you think you need at your planning meeting, or you can talk to your local area coordinator, your early childhood partner or planner if you already have a current plan, and they can let you know about options for this as well. If you're not sure how much your low-cost assistive technology will cost you, you can look at the fact sheet on the NDIS website, and this is called Assistive Technology Guide for Low-Cost Support Funding. So we use this as a guide to work out how much funding to add to your plan for the low-cost items that you might need. So the next level is mid-cost assistive technology. So these are items between $1,500 and $15,000 per item. And the NDIA no longer needs quotes for assistive technology items under $15,000, but we still need some evidence to make sure you get the right assistive technology. So you need to give us evidence in writing from a qualified assistive technology advisor that includes what item you need, how the item helps with your disability support needs, why the item is best value way to help you pursue your goals, and is an estimate of how much the item might cost. If you have other evidence, you might want to give it to us to help us understand your needs better as well. And this might include things like information about your lived experience, your experience using or testing the item or a similar item, information from peers, support groups, or peak bodies that also shows that the item is right for you. Mid-cost items may be more difficult to choose and set up on your own to get the best outcome. And so funding for mid-cost assistive technology items is placed in the capital budget in your plan. For example, your plan might say funding provided for a wheeled shower commode, which has a price range of between $1,500 and $3,500. So you don't have to give us a quote for us to decide if we'll fund mid-cost assistive technology in your plan. So the last range we will cover is the high-cost assistive technology. So these are items over $15,000, and these items will require both an assessment from a qualified assistive technology assessor that shows what items that you need, and also you're going to need a quote for the item. So high-cost items are complex and need an individual assessment to make sure it's the right solution for your needs. It also needs specialised knowledge or tools to set them up. It may be custom-made for your individual needs, and you will need a quote so we can include the right amount of funding in your plan. So funding for high-cost assistive technology is placed in the capital budget section of your plan. It may say the specific type of assistive technology you need to buy, and it may also say quote required. Your plan will also explain this. So examples include a wheelchair custom-made for you and some complex communication devices, maybe prosthetics and ventilators as well. And many people ask how they can get high-cost assistive technology in their plan. And for high-cost assistive technology, you need to give us a recent assessment or report that shows what assistive technology you actually need. One quote, unless we have another way to find out the right amount of funding to include. And the assessment needs to be from a qualified assistive technology assessor. So this could be an occupational therapist or a physiotherapist, for example. And for specialist hearing products, this needs to be an audiologist, and for prosthetics, a qualified prosthesist. So we have more information and a variety of assessment templates on the NDIS website. So go along and have a look at that. And we usually need an assessment from the past 2 years. But if your needs are changing quickly, we may need a more recent report or an update to an earlier report. So for example, we might need a more recent report because you have young children and perhaps a degenerative neurological condition that's forever changing, and you're going to have rapid functional changes perhaps. So we'll ask about your experience using the item as well. For example, you might have used the assistive technology before, And if you had, you can tell us how it worked for you. You could also do your own research about why you need this support, and you might need to trial the assistive technology before you know it's right for you. Quotes help us understand how much funding you need for your assistive technology, and they also help us understand the short-term and long-term costs for the recommended items. So this is an important part of deciding if it meets the NDIS funding criteria. And for high-cost assistive technology, getting quotes and assessments can take time, and sometimes will include funding for assessments or trials in your plan before we fund them and the assistive technology item. So here's an example. So Rob can't speak due to his disability. He has his first plan approved, which includes funding to trial some assistive technology options. He starts seeing a speech pathologist who assesses his needs. The speech pathologist gets Rob to trial a few options to decide what's right for him, and then writes an assessment. They recommend a $16,000 communication device that tracks Rob's eyes as he spells out what he wants to say and then reads it out. And Rob gets a quote for the communication device. He gives the assessment and quote to his planner, and the planner asks for more information about what other devices Rob trialled and what types of activity he did during the trial. And this is to make sure the device is value for money and the best type of device for him. So Rob and his speech pathologist give the planner this information, and Rob's planner decides the communication device is reasonable and necessary, and Rob's next plan has funding for the communication device, and he can now buy the device that he needs. So looking at the table on the screen, this is a simple table that is available on the NDIS website that captures those cost levels that we spoke about in a snapshot and explains what is required for each level. So that is a really, really good one, and it has it in quite simplified format as well. So when we're talking about the next one here, vehicle modifications, NDIS also fund this, and when we talk about vehicle modifications, we mean changes to a vehicle so you can drive or travel in it more comfortably. And we will only consider vehicle modifications you need because of your disability, and without these changes, you wouldn't be able to drive the vehicle or travel as a passenger. So vehicle modifications and driving supports are one way we help you to get to the places that you need to go and to the people you want to see. It also enables you to become as independent as possible and be able to travel to work or activities and perhaps go somewhere on holiday. The vehicle modifications and driving supports we might fund because of your disability might be making changes to a vehicle so you can drive it or be a passenger in it, and this includes fitting assistive technology into the vehicle, a driver-trained occupational therapist assessment, and a driving instructor for the on-road part of the assessment if you plan to drive the vehicle is required, and specialised driving lessons, assisting additional driving lessons where your disability impacts your ability to learn to drive as well, assessment and trial of passenger modifications, and help with any extra insurance costs because your vehicle has been modified, and the cost of maintenance or repair of the modifications. The vehicle modifications and driving supports we don't fund are funding to cover usual vehicle registration, the insurance running costs, or things like fuel servicing or repairs to the vehicle. Things like driving supervision or driving lessons for you to make up practice hours to get your driver's license, funding to buy or lease a vehicle, or changes to public vehicles such as buses or taxis. You or a family member need to own the vehicle or have found a vehicle you plan to purchase or lease before we can consider modifications. So if you don't own the vehicle, you'll need to be able to use it regularly and have permission from the owner to modify it. So to determine if the NDIS will fund vehicle modification, we consider the following. So are the vehicle modifications and driving supports related to your disability going to help you pursue your goals, going to help you take part in social and work life, be effective and beneficial for you, be value for money, be better funded or provided by another service or organisation, and is it legal and safe? Okay, so let's now talk about the evidence required to include in assistive technology in your NDIS plan. So we need to understand your assistive technology needs and how the right assistive technology will help you pursue your goals. And we need different information from you depending on the two types of product risks we discussed. So remembering the low and the high, and the cost range we covered in the low cost, medium cost, or high cost. So some equipment or items will need a qualified assistive technology advisor to talk with you about your needs and situations and help you identify the most appropriate assistive technology. The assessor may be an allied health practitioner, a continence nurse, a rehabilitation engineer, or other qualified practitioner or another qualified practitioner. And the NDIA provide funding for assistive technology advice and assessment when you tell us that you need assistive technology. So this funding is placed in the capacity building budget in your NDIS plan. And we may also include funding for trials and rentals of the products to ensure the right equipment is recommended for your individual needs. For assistive technology costing more than $15,000, we require both an assessment by a professional advisor and a quote for the proposed items. NDIA have a variety of templates available on the NDIA website to help assessors and participants provide information to help the NDIA determine the appropriate supports to include in a participant's plan. And using these templates ensures the NDIA has the correct information required for planning and approval and helps avoid delays. These are a few of them. So we've got the general assistive technology, the prosthetics and orthotics, complex home modification, vehicle modification, things like assistive animals and dog guide assessment templates, hearing devices and the hearing technology assessment template as well. And the templates include a consent clause, which ensures the participant has given the NDIA permission to discuss those assessments as well and quotes with the providers, and they're able to do that directly. The structure of the templates may also be helpful when providing evidence for assistive technology that is valued less than $15,000 as well. It's important to note you don't need to use an NDIS template, but we do require the following information. So we will need an outline of the functional impact of each feature of the assistive technology. We also would need to know how the assistive technology will support capacity building, how the assistive technology will promote independence, and how the assistive technology will affect other forms of support. The NDIS will use the evidence provided to understand how the requested assistive technology will help the participant to pursue their goals, be able to assess whether it is reasonable and necessary to fund the assistive technology support as well. The NDIS expects valid and reliable outcome measures and making sure that they are used for assistive technology in a trial. And we would ask for the following information if that was the case, things like the location of the trial outcomes, the duration of the trial, the participant's tolerance, the functional outcomes, the support required, the risks or barriers identified. So if you were not able to complete a trial, you would need to provide information on things like why you were not able to do the trial. For example, you might be in a remote or rural location. It might also be availability of that particular piece of equipment and the steps you have taken to make sure the assistive technology is suitable in the absence of being able to have that trial. We would then want to know about the long-term benefit of the assistive technology being assessed, which is including things like the anticipated lifespan, how it allows for adaptation, accommodation of likely changes, especially if the participant's circumstances, development or functional capacity changes, and things like, for example, growth of the child over the lifespan of the assistive technology. And then describe how the assistive technology will impact the participant's functional status, their independence and or outcomes over the long term, and potentially the reduction in the cost of funded supports for the participant in the long term. Also, what evidence would indicate the proposed assistive technology will be or is likely to be effective and beneficial for the participant as well. So, for example, published literature, you might be able to get past participant experience of assistive technology evidence as well. We would ask that you provide details of how the recommended assistive technology may assist the participant to perform specific activities as well, including the anticipated frequency of the use and the level of support to the participant in regards to what they need to complete these activities. For example, if the item is rarely used, it would probably not be considered reasonable and necessary to purchase it, but you might be able to consider that as a rental. So we then ask about the risk assessment and ask you to describe any potential risk to the participant related to the use of the assistive technology, the potential risk to the participant's carer related to the use of the assistive technology, the risk mitigation strategies that are or will be implemented, details of the annual costs for repairs and maintenance, the warranty period that applies to this assistive technology. You may need to list the support services required to implement the recommended assistive technology solution, including assistive technology setup and adjustment for the participant care and training, ongoing reassessment and review. So I think this comprehensive list shows you the depths of the information that the NDIA require for the higher cost, more complex and higher risk assistive technology items being recommended. So they have a duty of care to ensure that they fund items that are safe, that are beneficial and fit for purpose. So other considerations. So there are other considerations that we can include in your plan for assistive technology. We'll include funding in your capacity building budget to help you get advice or an assessment for your assistive technology. And you can also use the funding to help you choose assistive technology or to learn how to use it. For low-cost assistive technology, we include approximately $500 in your capacity building budget for advice. And for mid and high cost assistive technology, we include more funding for advice and the assessment if you don't already have one. Next, we will consider the possible delivery and setup costs of your assistive technology. If we fund new assistive technology in your plan, we'll fund costs for delivery. And this includes delivery costs to your home or wherever you use the item. We'll also include funds for your therapist or assistive technology provider to help you set it up or fit it to you if this is what is needed. For low cost and mid cost items, you can use flexible funds in your plan to pay for this. And for higher costs, these will usually be stated supports in your capital budget. So you might need a trial to test the assistive technology before buying it, and you might trial the item if you never have used it before, or you're just confirming if it's right for you. So if you need funding in your plan to trial mid-cost assistive technology, you won't need a quote, but you'll need to tell us why you need to trial the item and how long you need to trial it for to see if it is right for you. And this is to make sure that the funding of the trial meets all the NDIS funding criteria. And we can estimate the trial cost for you if the supplier doesn't know or hasn't included it in a quote. To do this, we'll use the assistive technology guide for minor trial and rental funding fact sheet that can be found on the NDIA website. Okay, so for items over $15,000, you can tell us how much it will cost from a quote, and we'll include funding to trial high-cost assistive technology if you need it. For short trials like a 1-hour session, we include funding in the core consumable budgets. For longer trials, we include funding in the capital assistive technology budget. And some providers will let you trial assistive technology for no cost. Other times you may need a longer trial, or the provider has to travel and make special adjustments for you during that trial, which will cost money. So if a trial will cost money, ask the provider if this is taken off the price if you buy the assistive technology from them. Okay, and then in regards to rentals, sometimes renting assistive technology supports is more appropriate than buying it. So for example, you might be on holiday, you might be renting a shower chair for a week, or when items aren't available due to an extended repair or maintenance to other things, delivery costs will be added for regional and remote areas for this one, and you may be able to use the flexible funds in your plan to rent the assistive technology. We may also include funding in your plan to rent assistive technology. If you can't use your regular assistive technology for some reason, you can't use your current assistive technology anymore, and you're waiting on new items to come in, you may have left hospital without assistive technology, things like a wheelchair, and the health system have loaned you, and you're waiting for an assessment on your long-term needs, for example, or you need new high-cost assistive technology, but you need to trial some options as part of this assessment. So it's better than buying the assistive technology if your needs are likely to change. For example, we may consider that renting assistive technology is better value for money for a child. This is because the child is likely to outgrow the technology within a short period of time. So you'll need to tell us why you need to rent the item and how long you will need to rent it for. Okay, so with repairs and maintenance, like other equipment, your assistive technology may need repairs. It may need repairs due to regular wear and tear or accidental damage that's not covered by insurance. So sometimes if the assistive technology is old or badly damaged, it's much better value to replace it than repair it. If your item isn't of acceptable quality or fit for purpose, you can ask your provider for a refund or replacement, and this will fall under the Australian consumer law. We'll include funding for repairs and maintenance for all assistive technology items in your plan. For small repairs like things like a tyre puncture, we include funding in your core consumables budget. And if your funding is agency managed, it's in your capital assistive technology budget, as registered repairers can only claim money from this budget. For major repairs like a regular service, we include funding in your capital assistive technology budget, and we'll use the assistive technology guide for funding of annual repairs and maintenance funding to calculate how much funding you need for repairs. And this fact sheet is available on the NDIA website. If you need more because of the specialised needs with all of this, you can tell us in your planning meeting. And if your plan has funding for repairs and maintenance, you can get it done when you need to. But let us know if your repairs are expensive or if you need them more frequently, because we may be able to discuss whether a different item can support you better. And you can contact your local area coordinator, early childhood partner, planner, or assistive technology advisor. Even though your new assistive technology has a warranty, we will still include funding for repairs, as you may need things like accidental damage or something may come up as far as the routine servicing goes. We do not fund insurance for assistive technology, but we may cover the additional insurance an item may bring compared to an item that's not modified, for example, in a modified vehicle. Okay, but what if you don't have enough funding left in your current budget for repairs? So we've thought of that as well. So when we include funding in your budget for assistive technology, we include enough to cover maintenance and repairs. It's going to be up to you to manage your budget so you have enough for these costs. And if you do need to fix something and don't have enough budget left, get in contact with us about maintenance or repairs, and you might be able to get a new plan with funding for repairs. So we'll have to check if this meets the NDIS funding criteria, of course. Okay, so that brings us now to the end of today's webinar. So the topics that we covered in today's webinar were what is assistive technology, product risk, cost levels, what will NDIS cover, rental repairs and maintenance, evidence that is required, and also vehicle modifications. So there was a lot of information to take in. Just remember that you can look further on your website. You can get in contact with help as well. And we will always be there for you in some way or another. We're only a phone call away. So we've got APM Community's number there on the slide, which is 1800 276 522. And there's also the NDIS, which is 1800 800 1110. Okay, thank you for joining me here today, and I wish you all the very best in your NDIS journey. Thank you. Bye.